Okay. All right. Let us stand for prayer. Anyone like to lead us in prayer from the audience, followed by pledge?
I would like to.
Thank you.
Father God, we just thank you so much for the opportunity to gather tonight to make decisions, Lord, that would promote learning, but also, God, be reflective of your desires for us. God, we just ask that you give us wisdom and guidance as we have to make decisions. Lord, we thank you for each one who is willing to serve, to give up their time, to be faithful employees, school board members, superintendent, community folks, Lord, who just want to support our schools. We just thank you for that. We pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome to the Monday, July 6th, 2020 school board meeting. And this meeting will be called to order. At this time, we have one amendment to the agenda, and we're going to add, let's see, Ms. Kim Barnhill from the Health Department.
Kim
Albritton, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry, correction. Ms. Kim Albritton to the agenda, and we'll plug her in during the first portion of the public comment section. Speaking of, do we have any public comment? Okay, for the record, no public.
Probably do roll call first, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Just for the record, attendees present. We have school board members Carol Gibson, Bart Alford, Reggie Daniels present here at the district office, and remotely we have school board members Susie Williamson and Sharetta Bell. Also present here at the district office, we have Superintendent Shirley Joseph, IT Isaac Goyette, Ms. Robin Hill, Mr. Tim Ginn, Ms. Becky Bishop, Attorney Tommy Reeves, Ms. Kim Albritton, and Dr. Travis Blue. Did I get everybody? Okay. All right. Okay, at this time, if Ms. Kim is prepared to present, she can do so at this time.
Hello, how are y'all doing tonight? So this is kind of spur of the moment. I actually thought I was coming just to make comment on in case y'all were changing something as far as your school, back to school plan, but I do have an update that I can provide you on the status.
Whatever you can provide us, we'll appreciate it.
Currently, we have 255 cases of the virus here in Madison County. 5 of those cases are of non-residents, non-Florida residents, so really we have 250. In the last 2 weeks, we have we received 114 new cases. A lot of this is attributed to an outbreak that is going on currently at a poultry processing plant in Suwannee. We also have several other daycares that have outbreaks. We have 3 nursing homes that have outbreaks in them as well. Right now, only 19% of the cases that we have had in Madison are attributed to long-term care. The rest are from community spread or from outbreaks at some of these other larger facilities, such as the one in Suwannee. And our long-term care is just not an issue anymore. So it's community spread. And right now, the governor gave a press conference and stated that the individuals that have the highest rate of the virus is the 21-year-olds. However, in Madison, It is the, I don't know if I brought that with me. I want to say it's the 35 to 45 and the 55 to 65-year-olds that have, they're basically equal in Madison County, that have the highest proportion of the virus. I'm just encouraging everyone to continue wearing face masks when they're out in the public and continue to social distance. We're going to continue to see an increase in the spread of the virus. Everyone's up and about and moving around, and I'm sure with the 4th of July, we're going to see some increase in cases as well. A lot of the cases can be attributed back to Memorial Day. And so as people were beginning to move around, people became infected and did not know they were infected and infected others. So we do have some that are not symptomatic and not showing any signs or symptoms, and which is a good thing, but that's typically in our younger population. Our older population, they typically do come down with signs and symptoms. However, I have had situations in long-term care facility where there have been asymptomatic individuals, which has been a good thing. We have had 4 deaths related to the virus, and we cannot say that it was caused by the virus. However, we had 4 deaths of individuals that were diagnosed with the virus. Our hospitalizations we have had 8 people that have been hospitalized since the beginning of March with this virus. We have seen an increase in our influenza-like illnesses, such as those that are showing up in the emergency room and those that are associated with cough and respiratory issues. And I'll entertain any questions. I'm just not sure exactly what it is y'all want me to update you on.
Kim, let me ask you something. How is this different from the typical cold, let's say? I mean, what are the symptoms?
The signs and symptoms
Yes.
are, it's a cough, fever, headache. It can mimic like body aches of the flu. There are diarrhea. It could be a number of things. There's also it's loss of smell, loss of taste, and those are the primary symptoms that they have.
But of the 255 people, only 8 were hospitalized. So they didn't require hospitalization, the majority of the people then?
No. The majority of the people recover from this virus. I'd say 90%, 95% recover from the virus, and they just have very mild symptoms.
Thank you.
I have a question. When we start back to school, and say for instance you're a teacher and you have a classroom full of kids and you have a student who comes down with it, at that point, would the teacher have to quarantine and the other students in there, or how will that?
If they're considered close contacts and the teacher's been leaning over the child for more than 15 minutes, working with them on a one-on-one, and they've been closer than 6 feet, and that child becomes positive, or the teacher is positive, and then the children have been around, yes. Everyone in that classroom will probably be isolated. I'm hoping that the school board takes measures to prevent us from having to close the entire school. There are certain behaviors that we can promote, such as washing hands, staggering a school's schedules, staggering when you go in for lunches, reducing class sizes, keeping kids cohorted as much as possible, so they're not changing rooms as much and interacting with students as they go through the hall, playing with each other on the playground, like classes go at staggered times, wearing masks on the bus, because there's no way that we can prevent, if everyone just rides the bus as normal, you're going to sit closer than 6 feet together.
On the bus, you mentioned the bus. Would it be better for the windows to be down on the bus to have air?
Certainly, air circulation, yes, it would be, but you're still sitting in close proximity
Right.
to someone who may have the sniffles, who coughs, because remember, this is a respiratory virus, and once you cough, you sneeze, you speak, and the droplets come out, they can easily go to the next person that's in close proximity.
This is a question relating to that. For the teachers and for the students, I guess, Has there been any studies like with the face shields? Do they protect as much as a mask?
Well, they can. We typically like to wear a mask as well, but yes, the face shields can, and there are people that just, specifically just wear the face shields. And what that does, if there's droplets that's coming at them, face on in a direct method, then yes, it can prevent it. However, there is circulation that comes from around. So that's why you at least need to wear a cloth mask or a surgical mask.
So getting back to the point of, because as a board member, and if we have teachers who are constantly being sent home because they become in contact with someone who has it.
There is a number of strategies that can be implemented. And, for those that are the lowest risk, it's going to be your small groups of students that stay together. They stay together all day, and they remain at least 6 feet apart, and they don't share objects. Also, the students and the teachers engage in virtual classes and activities and events. That's going to be your lowest risk category. If the more risk you have, it's going to be small in-person classes with activities and events, and then those groups stay together and do not interact with the other individuals, and they remain 6 feet apart, which is what we're going to call cohorting. And it is a type of hybrid. You can take some hybrid of virtual and classes where maybe you reduce the number of times. Like some students come on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and some could come on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. There's a plethora of strategies that could be employed. It's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort to coordinate that. And then, of course, it's going to be contingent on all the students having access to internet capabilities.
If, back to the teacher, if the teacher were to have the mask on, would that maybe protect them to where
Yes.
if they did come in contact, they wouldn't have to go home?
They're at lower risk. I need to remember what we just said on that. If they were wearing protective and it is a surgical mask, it has to be a particular mask, yes, they could continue working, as long as they were not symptomatic.
That's the thing is that, I work in the schools also, and I want to go to work, and I want to be able to be there safely, and if I am exposed, not be having to go home, because if you come in contact with a lot of students, you could be home the whole year. If you have students who are getting it every so many days, you could be out the whole time. And I just think as a board, we need to have ways where we can safely as we can make it where the teachers could be as safe as they can, and even if they come in contact, then possibly be able to.
Well, we have been given, cloth masks to distribute to all the teachers and to enough for all the students as well. Wearing masks will reduce your risk of contracting the virus. However, if there is a child that is in the classroom or another individual that has the virus and you've been closer than 6 feet, then your surgical mask is going to be your best protection.
So you recommend the surgical, not the ones that we were given?
Well, they will help prevent it, however, and basically what it will do is prevent the spray from coming out of your mouth onto somebody else. But in order for, they still can go through the mask.
Okay.
So the most likelihood of preventing it is your surgical mask. N95 is pretty restrictive, but what we're saying now is a surgical mask.
Not the N95, but the surgical.
I just have a question in regards to our school-aged, or the school-aged folks who have tested positive for it. 0 to 18, what percentage of the 255?
I don't have that breakdown with me as far as the groups, but it's not near as high as the 18 to 21-year-olds and above. And typically, like I said, the 21-year-olds, it's not the ones that have it here. It's actually the 35 to 45 and the 55 to 65-year-olds that have it. Which a lot of them actually work at the processing plant, brought it home to their children. who brought it to a daycare, who brought it to a football camp.
Ms. Williamson, Ms. Bell, do you have any questions for Ms. Kim?
Yes, yeah, I want to know if one of the students or the teacher is contracted the COVID-19. How many of the students in the classroom? Would the whole classroom be quarantined?
If we determine that they have been a close contact to that individual, and there are specific criteria that is used to define that, and like I said, it's closer than 6 feet for more than 15 minutes.
That would be some of them. It would be hard to keep all kids away more than 6 feet all day long in a classroom.
I don't think it's possible.
Especially younger.
As a teacher, you're with the kids in the
maybe,
classroom.
And that's why I recommend cohorting as much as possible, keeping them together, eating lunch together, having recess together, because then you can confine it. The more protective measures that you put in place, the less likely I will have to close down an entire school. Then it would be a classroom, a pod, or maybe a wing, depending on how you develop that particular schedule.
Kim, when you say cohorting, does that mean you're talking about within the classroom? In other words, I've got 20 kids.
That
I
are
keep
together,
these
yes.
5 together all the time and.
All the 20, like all that 20,
Oh,
the
keep
25 kids together, keep them together all day.
Okay, well, that would be a possibility, of course.
Yes, with the same teacher.
But, okay.
Or, if you want to reduce, the teachers would need to wear their mask, a surgical mask, and they could go change the classroom instead of the students changing
So you
classroom.
would recommend that versus the students changing?
Yes.
And I had thought about that at the elementary level. I don't know at the middle school level if students are,
We can do that in middle school.
where you could group them where they stay with the same group. Because that would, now we have teachers who team teach where one does ELA and math, one does math, and I would see where if they stayed in the same desk all day, you wouldn't be having all these little hands touching different things.
Correct.
I'm
It
glad.
reduces the risk
Yeah.
significantly.
What, I know you had made mention to close down a section or the school. What would bring it to that point? Just the number?
It would be the number of kids that were symptomatic.
At that particular
Yes.
school or in that
Yes,
class?
and it could be there'll be other circumstances that could do that as well. But what happens with that is the epidemiologist typically makes that decision. There's a certain triggers that they would use in order to recommend that.
So our probability of containing it to, like, if we did have an outbreak, say at Lee in 3rd grade, if they're all staying in that one, like you said, group of kids all
Pod or,
day,
yes,
then you're more likely to contain it there than if they're all around.
right.
And actually, they could eat in their classroom, too. I think it could be, we did it in when I was teaching in Lake City, the food was brought from another building to the classroom. So that's, I don't know.
It's your smaller, which that'll be a school based on what but at some of the smaller schools, you could stagger it where they could be in, the cafeterias are big enough where.
You stagger it, and at least
so
if you
spread
have,
out.
they're spread out. And you just have to make sure that you increase the sanitation in those areas, and as well as in the classrooms, the other high-touch areas of the door handles and
What do you recommend for, you brought up sanitation, like with cleaning, I know that all rooms should be cleaned at least once a day, but do you recommend another time during the day where stuff is just wiped down, like
I would
tabletop?
recommend that you keep some Lysol wipes or some type of disinfectant wipe in there, and the teacher, as the kids are maybe put their head down for 15 minutes, or they're taking a break, where she goes around and wipes, or he goes around and wipes the high-touch areas, such as if there's a bathroom in the room, wipe down the doorknob, go in there and wipe down the toilet handle, the faucet handle. And if there's any
With the
other.
bathrooms, with going into the bathroom, would every time a student goes in and use the bathroom, someone would have to come in and clean after the student?
No, no, not necessarily. It depends on your resources. I mean, that would significantly reduce the risk of transmission if there was someone, in the classroom. But it depends on the resources that you have and the amount of cleaning materials as well. And, there's certain age groups that we don't recommend on, young children and those that have asthma and respiratory issues of putting masks on them. So you would need to identify.
And to be frank about it, I mean, I've worked with pre-Kers. It's hard, I mean, even through first, second grade, I mean, that's gonna be a task for a teacher where their days could be filled enough with trying to teach, much less trying to be a mask patrol in a class. I mean, some kids would sit there with it, but others, it would be a nightmare for the teacher. And I don't see, even on the bus, I don't know that's, I mean, we would hope they would do it, but I just don't know that that's realistic. I mean, maybe your middle school and high schoolers would, but I work in a school, 3rd grade through 5th grade, and I don't know that even at that age, it would be something realistic that you could encourage them, but.
Right, there's no way to mandate it.
You would be, after an hour or two into it, you would be done with it. I mean, I don't know that you could do it. You taught kindergarten.
That would be
You think
tough.
that you could have done it in kindergarten?
Probably not.
Yeah.
It would be, I mean, maybe in the beginning they'd think it was a novelty, but then it would wear off and
It would be
I
hard.
think, maybe educating them, even if the parents would send, some Clorox, some type of wipes, let the kids, take care of their own little area and.
I agree that they just need to be students. We need to do a good job in educating the importance of good hygiene. And I was watching some program on TV where at this particular, maybe it was in another country, but students all washed their hands whenever they got to school before they went in the classroom to to kill any germs that maybe they were bringing from home.
Sure. That's appropriate to if, soap and water's not handy in the classroom, when every child comes in, squirt, everyone
Yes.
gets a squirt of hand sanitizer
Right.
of at least 60% or 70%, 60% alcohol.
I did that before they went to lunch. They just got, whether they had clean hands or dirty hands, they still got a squirt and just.
And I
Soap's
think,
quick.
just reinforcement, like you said, if there's something on the morning announcements, there's some kind of cute cartoon that's, shows healthy, hygiene habits, increasing your messaging as far as signs, having arrows in the hallways of, what arrow that shows the direction in which they can travel. You may have certain hallways that are one-way, but if you have them two-way, just make sure, that you have enough distance, that the kids aren't running up and hugging each other, which I don't know that you can prevent that.
It's hard not to hug.
It is. It's going to be hard for teachers. I'm a hugger, and it is going to be very difficult.
Yes, I actually had to apologize to someone a couple months ago
'Cause
for
you
hugging,
hug.
but that person said, I'm a hugger, so I can relate.
And I think the biggest thing is just, like I said, the more protective measures that you put in place, it reduces the likelihood of closing down the entire school versus a classroom or a pod or a wing.
And
Ms.
hopefully,
Kim,
Yes, ma'am?
with the with the transportation and the students being on the bus, kids are very playful, and even if they have on masks, how are we going to prevent them from playing on the seat or pulling their mask up and down? Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh,
You're
yeah.
not going to be able to do that because the driver's driving the bus. They can't be back there making a kid
They
keep
can't
the
be like
mask on.
that. Right.
So what happens if you just put the least restrictive measures in place and you get someone and then, this branches out to where whatever happens, it's school-wide spread, and you've got, cases in all these different areas, and it's, covering the entire school. I mean, like in the central school, it would be hard to see that the entire school could be shut down, but I'm not going to say that you can't, but y'all got it kind of sectioned off. But you just have to, either you just go ahead and.
If there was a case of a child that came down with a positive test on the school bus, would all the kids on the school bus then have to be quarantined?
It would depend on the size of the school bus, but more than likely, yes. They would be close contacts. It would depend on, from the seating around those individuals. And it's going to be hard for everyone to remember who was sitting where and who they were sitting next to, and who was 3 rows back.
They're going to be sitting 6 foot apart.
Ms. Alden, how long did COVID live on service?
I don't recall the answer to that, to be honest with you. It's a couple of days, possibly, or a couple of hours. I'd need to go back and research that. But that's why with children, if you have lots of them around, that's why you want to hit those high-touch surfaces. Really, it's after the kids are on there, and once you've transported one load, wipe things down before the next load comes on. And I believe there are special wipes that can be used on buses and stuff that you have.
Okay.
But it's just gonna determine, based on, a school closure, or that it's gonna be the number of people that are showing symptoms and test positive. And how deep that goes into the school.
All right, well, thank you, Ms. Kim. You're going to hang around
I will.
for the portion, the reopening portion?
Sure.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along, consent agenda items. Do we have a motion to adopt the consent agenda items?
I move to approve the consent agenda items.
All right, I have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, properly moved and second. Would there be a need for discussion? All,
One thing,
Okay.
I didn't have, in mine, I didn't have the minutes in my, I don't know if they were available in the public website. Were they available and I just missed them, Ms. Becky?
you on the public side?
I come in there, the same where I've been, and I don't know why they don't show up. I can go in and put that in there so it shows up for you right now.
Yeah. Oh, you saying you don't show that?
They don't show on the public. And I mean, if everybody's seen them, I don't think there's yeah. I don't think there's a problem, but they do need to be on the public.
It's posted so long.
Right. Right. So I mean, if all your board members have seen it, then that's fine. We'll go ahead and do it, but we do need to make sure that's.
It doesn't show on the next to it, but if you click
Yeah,
on it,
I
then
can
it
see
says
it.
few minutes.
Okay,
On our side. Yeah,
no, that's a different. See, what I sign in with the public.
Sign on the public.
Oh,
And so the
Okay.
public doesn't get to see that.
oh,
Oh, okay.
And so if y'all have seen it, then that's fine. We can vote on it, but we do need to figure out a way that,
But you used to see it, right?
huh?
You used to be able to see it. It's just
Hit it again, Tom, real quick.
See, this one, the next one, the vision agreement does what you're talking about, but the minutes, when I hit that on the
Okay,
public
yeah.
site,
Yeah, he's not showing.
it doesn't have it. And again, it doesn't need to stop what we're doing here today, but we do need to be sure that that's available to the public at the same time it's available to everybody else. Or at the same time it's available to the board members.
Okay. Have a motion and a second, and there was no need for discussion, or at least, all in favor? Ms. Gibson,
Approve.
Mr. Alford,
approve.
Ms. Williamson,
Approve.
Ms. Bell. Ms.
Approve.
Okay, and I also approve 5-0. Consent agenda items have been approved. Items for individual consideration. 5.1, MCHS Field House Air Conditioning. Mr. Gann.
This is one of those air conditioners that I've been telling y'all about, R22.
Oh, man.
We've repaired, and we've repaired, and we've repaired. If I had all the money back from repairing it, we could already replaced it. But I'm presenting y'all 3 quotes that I've gotten. I got one from Jason Heat and Air, one from Green AC, and one from Ice Age, which is Heath Driggers. And the lowest one being from Jason's Heat and Air, and at 13,500. The high school says that they've got $1,500 worth of parking money that they can put toward this unit. The rest of it's going to have to come out of local improvement. So my suggestion to y'all would be to go with Jason's Heating and Air.
Well, Tim, do they all, these 3 quotes, are they all covering the same?
So they're all pretty much
Service.
apples to apples.
That's what I figured,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, I met with all 3 of them personally,
Okay.
and.
Well, thank you for doing that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion.
I make the motion to approve Jason Heating and Air for the field house.
Second.
Okay, have a motion by Mr. Alford, seconded by Ms. Bell. Would there be a need for discussion? All in favor, Ms. Gibson,
Approve.
Mr. Alford,
Approve.
Ms. Williamson,
Approve.
Ms. Bell,
Approve.
and I also approve 5-0. Motion carried.
Thank y'all.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Gann. All right, 5.2, contract with Michael Vincent. Ms. Joseph.
Okay, Mr. Chair, at this time, we are without a finance officer, and Ms. Claire Floyd has gotten in contact with this Mr. Michael Vincent. A little bit of his history. He is presently, he's the CFO in Hamilton County, and in his past life, he has worked as an auditor. And so he can come in, run it, he knows what to do. Right now, we are in the middle of our trim, and he knows how to prepare the documents and all that, and he doesn't need any tutorial lessons. And so this is $5 more per hour than our previous contractor, but he has agreed to come work with us, and if this is approved, he will be here tomorrow afternoon.
Okay. Well, yes, sir, Mr. Reeves.
One thing, Mr. Chairman, on the document you've got before you, it does not have the term set out, it's got blanks. What I would think we'd be looking at is, through June 30, 2021?
Yes,
It's
and or less, but we wouldn't make it no
Well,
longer.
Well, and we've got in there right
The
after, it says
termination-
either party can terminate on 10 days' notice. So
Okay.
my recommendation would be just do it from the date of execution through June 30, 2021.
Okay. I just think it's an advantage to have a candidate who will be ready on day one
He's ready.
and can help us out on day one. So I think it'd be
And it's
very
saving us money.
advantageous.
Yeah.
Saving us a lot of money. Well, then I move to approve the contract with Michael Vincent from July the 7th of 2020 through June the 30th, 2021.
Second.
All right, motion, Mr. Alford, seconded by Ms. Gibson. There'll be a need for discussion. All in favor, Ms. Gibson?
Approve.
Mr. Alford?
Approve.
Ms. Williamson?
Approve.
Ms. Bell?
Approve.
And also approve 5-0 contract between the school district and Mr. Michael Vincent has been approved. 5.3, the return to school plan, Superintendent Joseph.
Okay, I need to preface this, that this is a draft plan. This is something, and I need to thank Ms. Barnhill, Ms., I'm sorry, Ms. Albritton. She's been working with us, and we also have met with a community group several times. One person, group I have not met with, and when we meet again with, I have not directly included the union with us when we meet on this, but I will include them. And so what we're doing, and I thought would be more beneficial, is we prepare a generic document. And I think I've shared with you with this before. And the specifics, we are preparing several other specific documents about this. And at this time, Ms. Hill is going, what we have presented here, do we have any questions on this right now?
I have a question in that I don't know if we need to have like a workshop for the board to go over, or maybe each school to present their plans for us so we can have something more specific of what's being done. Like Ms. Barnhill Albritton had spoke about with limiting the class size. That is something I think that we should have spelled out to parents, that students are expected to have their own pencil, their own pens. There will not be a communal pen pencil. With students changing classes in your elementary grades. I have some concerns concerning like your K1 and possibly 2 who are at tables that are not individual desks. Individual desks, we could spread out across the room. The tables are going to present a problem.
We're working on that.
Mr. You want to listen to her plan,
Yeah.
but do we want to set a date for a workshop for each school to present their specific
I
plan?
would like it. I think parents would feel more comfortable if they had specifics. In other words, just as much
Okay.
information as we can give them.
Okay, you want to wait until after the presentation?
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
well, and then we'll set a date for a workshop for each school to specific plan. But we have been working on this, and this is part of our daily activities in addition to everything else. And Ms. Hill will let you know how far we're along with this.
Okay. Ms. Joseph gave you a copy of the kind of abbreviated version of our reopening plan. We are still in the process of putting together a much more detailed plan for DOE. But we have thought about, discussed around the table some of the same questions that you're talking about. We have discussed with principals having students stay in one classroom and teachers rotating. We have a lot of classes at the elementary level that are just self-contained, and so we don't have to worry about those. But for the ones where there is team teaching, making it where the students stay in the same room, but the teachers rotate. And we can do that even all the way up to 8th grade, because the way we do our schedule there, the students stay together all day except for the electives. And so we'll have to put a plan in place for them going to their electives. But I know that the Central School, Mr. Williams has been working on trying to stagger PE times so that there's not so many students at PE at one time. Also making sure that classroom paraprofessionals go to PE and kind of keep their group together and not mixing so much with all the other students that are there at that time. So we're putting some things in place. We're currently looking at, in the cafeterias, staggering lunch times more than we have in the past. It's very difficult at Central because they already start lunch at about 10:30. And so it's going to be a little more difficult to stagger there because they're kind of already staggered. But we are looking at students will all sit on one side of the table, so they're not across from each other, and trying to allow teachers, if they would like, to take their class outside to picnic tables or whatever, so that there's not quite as many students in the cafeteria at one time. We do have to keep in mind that our teachers' union has negotiated in the contract a duty-free lunch for each teacher, and so we can't just say, well, the teacher's going to take their class back to their classroom, because that would violate the contract.
I
And
was
so,
thinking of the old days.
yeah, those were old days.
The old days are gone.
But I've been working like with Ms. Brown out at Lee. We've been discussing options in the mornings, because their cafeteria is full in the mornings for kids eating breakfast, and that's only a short period of time for a lot of students. And so we are looking at some options for things that we can do there. And it will kind of be different by school, because, Lee's cafeteria is much bigger than Pinetta's. So they may have to do something different. So I think definitely each school does have to have a separate plan. We've been working on getting measurements for the tables, because in K to 2, or at least kindergarten and first grade at most schools, they do have the tables. They don't have individual desks. And so we've been researching the plexiglass dividers, sneeze guards, whatever you want to call them, to put on the tables that would give each child their own little area. And so that's the only thing we can really figure out how to do, because we don't have enough desks for individual desks for those students. And it would be much cheaper to get the plexiglass dividers than to buy desks for the classroom. And so we're researching that. We've got some prices, and Mr. Ginn actually has someone that he's checking with who made the sneeze guards out in the front offices to see if they could possibly do them. So we do realize that that's an issue, but we think that by using those plexiglass dividers, that would help tremendously. And so, and again, that's really kindergarten first. If we have classrooms in upper grade levels that also have the tables, I know there are some at Lee for the older grade levels that also have the tables, and we'll do those too. But we are looking at things like that to try to make sure that, we limit exposure as much as possible. We'll talk for a second about education options. Because we're a small district, it's hard for us to come up with, 3 or 4 different options for our students when school starts back. We have limited it to 2, and that is face-to-face instruction or distance learning. The distance learning for this coming school year will look a lot different than the distance learning at the end of the school year. At the end of the school year, we had to put something in place in a very short period of time, and we were trying to ensure at least some continuity for the students, because we knew that they were going to have to be, learning at home. That was a tremendous difference from what they had been doing, and we thought to change their whole curriculum would be disastrous. And so we came up with a plan that would kind of keep them using the same types of materials they had used throughout the year. It may not have been their core material, but at least it was materials that they had access to and knew how to use. And so that's how we tried to finish the school year. For this upcoming year, you have in your packet or online the Florida Virtual School franchise contract. What we are looking at doing is becoming a franchise of Florida Virtual School, which means that we would use their curriculum, their learning management system, and our teachers. And what we would have to do is pay a fee for each course. And so we're looking at this for this coming school year because there's going to be a wide range of students that are choosing virtual this year. And one summer is really not enough time to develop a whole curriculum for that. And so by becoming a franchise, we're using vetted curriculum. It's curriculum that's very good. We've had students who've used it. We know that it's a very strong curriculum. And so we just have to train our teachers on how to use the learning management system for that curriculum. And so I'm pleased that we're able to do that this year. And in the past, we had worked with NEFEC, and NEFEC was the franchise because we didn't have very many students who were taking the classes. Now that there's going to be a lot more, financially, it's better for us to even do that ourselves. We're trying to go through the information now on the FTE reporting for the virtual classes this year because the past few years, to get credit or to get FTE for virtual, the student had to successfully complete. And so we wouldn't get that FTE until after Survey 4, which is the summer. So we go through the whole school year before we could get the FTE. One of the provisions that it looks like DOE has put in place, and we're checking to make sure, is that we will get that FTE just like it was a regular classroom course.
By using our teachers.
Right. And so that's really important because otherwise we could lose quite a bit of money if we weren't allowed to do that. And so, yes.
So they're going to pay it out through the year like regular FTE, but now when you get to the end of the year, if the student doesn't successfully complete that course, do we owe them the money back, or it's just treated like regular FTE?
Well, what it looks like is they're going to give us that waiver, and it won't be dependent upon the student successfully completing through December, which is, we feel like the majority of the students will want to do the virtual learning the first half of the year to see how things are going. Now, if we have a big flare-up and have to close down some classrooms or a school, then parents may want their kids to stay there. And then I think the state will have to come back and readdress it. But, we're going to have to be flexible and at the end of the first semester, determine how many students are going to do this again second semester, and we may have to juggle some folks around, some teachers around, depending on how many students still want to do the virtual learning the second half of the year.
So they're committed for a semester then?
That's correct.
So are you in a position right now to know what percentage of option A versus B?
We did a survey. We put a survey out on the district website, and we had about a little over 400 parents respond, and it was about a fourth.
A fourth?
For
who
virtual? Said they wanted to do virtual. And so now, today I've registered 6 students for virtual. So we do have a cutoff date of July 15th because we've got to get all that set up. So we have to know how many students we have because that's going to depend on how many teachers we have to move. And so we're trying to get all that information so that we can make some decisions. But I am looking, I don't think it will be 1/4 of the total district population, but I am looking at between 150 to 200 students in virtual.
So a student, would the student still have the option of doing the traditional virtual program, the regular
Yes.
Florida virtual school?
Yes.
Okay, so and if they sign up there, it's the same as it's always been.
Yes.
They're under Florida virtual school.
That's right.
This is if they're signing up with us and want us to provide those virtual.
That's correct.
Okay, and then the difference, if the if they sign up for the regular virtual school, they may have a teacher in Colorado or somewhere.
That's correct.
And if they sign up for our virtual school, it's our local teachers. Okay.
And they, in Florida Virtual gets the FTE, and we
Right.
don't get the FTE
Right.
if they sign up for Florida Virtual.
Right.
So we're
Right.
not encouraging that.
But the other part of that is, I mean, if they do go that, some students that were already doing that full-time Florida Virtual, and that, I mean, they can continue to do that. When they go straight through Florida Virtual, we don't have anything to do with that. When they go through us, if they need a Chromebook, then we can provide them one. So there are some advantages both ways, but for us as a district, it's much better if they go through us because we do get the FTE and can pay the teachers. But we are looking at possibly up to 10 teachers who will need to do virtual rather than be in a classroom. And so we're going to, I don't want to say just survey the teachers, but we're going to get information from the teachers on who fits in the vulnerable category and cannot be in the classroom based off their doctors, what their doctors say. And those teachers will be given the first opportunity to do the virtual.
Ms. Robin, I know at one point with Mr. Ben Killingsworth, I think we were talking about during the school shooting time, we're hardening Central.
Mm-hmm.
And have we kind of addressed that or been looking into hardening Central in particular?
Yeah,
You
that,
know,
I mean,
that kinda help with
that's
the-
not my
since it's a-
wheelhouse, but I will
Right,
say,
right. Since it's a high-traffic school.
We do have a grant. We've got one grant that has been approved for $50,000. One thing we're doing, we're putting mag locks on all the schools. Like the high school, we're doing that at all the schools in the district. We're waiting on the other part of that grant, but that's one of the things we're definitely doing. So all the schools will be keyed entry.
All right.
Ms. Dawn, is there any sense on which grades are more likely to have the virtual? Is it mostly younger, mostly older?
you know, I went through the survey results. There was a wide range. In kindergarten, there tended to be more than first and second grade. I think parents just nervous about it. We did have about 20 from Madison County High School that expressed that they would be doing virtual, and probably 60 from the central school, but that's K to 8.
And so the courses that are going to be offered on our version are going to be our normal courses that we would have available otherwise, like Florida Virtual School, you can take a German class or something. I mean, we're
Right.
not offering any of that kind of stuff.
No, we have to offer what we have the teachers
Teachers to teach.
who have the certification for. And now we may have to ask some teachers who teach elective subjects if they would take on 1 or 2 virtual students. We do that already with teachers, and we pay them a stipend to do that. And so we can continue to do that and just offer to pay the teacher a stipend. If it's something like a foreign language or, you know, a specialized subject area.
If you, this is related to, if you had high schoolers who, I know in the past maybe were at the high school but also taking virtual classes, maybe something that wasn't offered there, are we still doing that?
We are.
We are.
We still do that. We also have a contract with Florida Virtual to be able to offer, you know, those classes that we don't offer. The students can take those in a lab at the high school through Florida Virtual.
I noticed DOE stated that they're going to need a plan from us at some point. When is that deadline for that?
Do you know that deadline, Ms. Joseph? August 1st? Is that right?
They're gonna need something in August, yes.
So the other thing that we're going to put into place this year that is different than what we've done in the past is we're going to start, we want to stagger start dates. We know that parents of really small children are very nervous about just dropping their student off the first couple of days of school. They want to walk them to the classroom, and we understand that. Especially at a very large school like Central, it is scary. And so we have talked about staggering our start dates so that students in pre-K, kindergarten and first, start on August 10th, along with sixth graders, since a lot of them are going to a new school, and ninth graders, since they're going to a new school. Have those 5 grade levels start on August the 10th, and for 2 days, it's just those 5 grade levels. You know, everybody was scheduled to start on the 11th, but if we start with those 5 grade levels on the 10th, and then everybody else comes on the 12th, that'll give 2 days for those parents to get a little more comfortable with their student going to class. And so after the first couple of days, then we're going to have to shut down parents being on campus. And I know it's probably not the best idea for the parents to be on campus the first 2 days, but you have to look at the mental health side of things too. And so we will ask parents to wear masks when they come on the campus to take their children to class. But we also just wanted to limit the number of contacts that they would have if they walked their child to class. They would not be allowed to go in the classroom, but they would be allowed to walk their child to the classroom and then leave. And so by having those 5 grade levels come back 2 days earlier, we would do a trade-off at the end of the school year and let those grade levels get out of school 2 days earlier.
That's a really good idea.
Speaking of masks, that's a sensitive issue for some, and I guess this would be more geared toward the attorney. If we ask a parent to wear a mask or student or whatever, and they say, well, I'm opposed to masks, you can't make me wear a mask, this, that, or the other, what position what options do we have in that case?
I think the board certainly has the authority to require masks. I mean, y'all need to decide as a policy measure, how forcefully you're going to do that. But if the board decides that children aren't allowed and certainly with parents, you can say if you don't have a mask, you can't come to school. I mean, they really don't have other than to come and talk to teachers about their students and that sort of stuff, they really don't have a right to be on the campus to begin with. And certainly talking to principals and teachers can be done on the phone and all that sort of stuff. So I think you certainly do that with them. With students, I think unless they've got I was about to say, unless they have some health issue that they can't wear a mask, but if they've got some health issue they can't wear a mask, they probably don't need to be around other kids to begin with, I would assume. So yeah, I think you could certainly do that. Now, it's a little bit of a touchy issue when you start, because we have such a low socioeconomic base with kids, is can you mandate them to go purchase masks? And probably yes, but it would probably be a lot better if
Not
we
in
had,
Title I school.
yeah, if we had a,
Yeah.
you make them,
That's what it will go.
yeah. So, I mean, if we can provide those, that's going to make it a lot better. But if we're providing the masks and they just say, no, because I don't like them, I'm not going to wear them, yeah, I think you can send them home.
Well, I think one of the things that we were talking about was with them walking their students to class. That's not, we don't have to allow them to do that. We're trying to be very accommodating in allowing them to walk their children to class. And so, our hope in that would be that they would go, wow, I'm so glad I get to do this. I'm going to comply with what they asked me to do. Are we going to get a resource officer to escort them off if they don't. I don't see us doing that.
And you're only talking about 2 days of walking kids to school anyway.
Right.
And with those few of grade levels, the probability is it's not going to be like all of Central out there.
Right.
I mean, it's not. It's going
That's
to be a
right.
lot less, and especially at your outlying schools, it'll be a handful of people there, two
That's right.
handfuls. So, I mean, it's not like you have a ton of students there and people there, and
I like the idea of staggering this. I think that's going to be good.
it'll be great for the high school.
Just for the record, it will not cost us any additional funds because everyone will already be on the clock.
We're going to have to add a couple bus drivers, aren't you?
Bus drivers will be on the clock also.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because they come back a day early, and this is just started a day earlier than we had planned on starting. So we're not having to pay out any additional fees to run a schedule like this.
But it'll also help those, I mean, one of the hardest things
them
about starting
acclimated.
school is the end of the day, the first 2 days of school
The bus.
and buses.
Buses.
And this is going to make it so much easier.
It'll be a great transition for your kindergartners, sixth graders, and ninth graders.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a traumatic age to be going to a new place, and
More traumatic for the parents.
all three.
Okay. That's what I have for you. Any questions?
I,
One other thing, tell them about what we're gonna do with the computers.
Oh, yes, in the past, we've not assigned students computers. We just had a class set in each classroom they went to for them to use. This coming year, for our K-5 students, they will be assigned their computer that they will use all day. They won't be allowed to take theirs home, but grades 6 to 12, when they're assigned their Chromebook, it will be theirs to take from class to class, and they will be able to take them home with them to use for schoolwork.
I just had I want to thank Ms. Hill for all her work on this. I mean, I know this is just another thing on your plate. But one thing I was thinking about, which the teachers already should be doing this with active shooter, where they're in thinking of, in my mind, of how to cut down the number of times children touch objects. And all teachers should be opening their door for visitors. So a child should not be getting up, opening the door. If teachers are following the active shooter,
That's correct.
and thinking, I've worked with some teachers who are really good teachers who open the door at all times. They open the door for them to go in, they prop it open, and they open the door for them to leave. And maybe if we can get into the habit of that, that would cut down on that many other people touching door handles and touching spaces. The other thing that came to my mind in thinking about like where this could be going with people being out and us trying to maximize our days of instruction is with all the technology we have, and I don't know that even we're capable of doing this, but I know we have a lot of technology, is say for instance at Central, if you have a fourth grade ELA teacher who's out that day, and you have another fourth grade ELA teacher and they're on the same thing, and hopefully they would be, where you could video the teacher that is there teaching her lesson and it go to this teacher's room who's not there, and if you have a sub in there who can manage the kids and the kids still get the instruction.
Right. And we've talked about doing that. You know, we learned a lot through finishing the school year doing distance learning. We had a lot of teachers who said, I'm going to start videoing myself doing my lessons so that when students are absent, they can go on to Google Classroom and watch the video.
That was the other thing I was going to say, that when if a student's absent, for the teacher to video where they could post it on some area where the student could go there.
Right.
To,
We just have to be very careful in how we video because you can't show students. But yeah, a lot of the teachers have talked about, I want to be able to video myself and post it to Google Classroom so that when my students are absent, they can watch it and it's like they've been there for the instruction.
I just thought of that the other night concerning the teachers who are absent, a way where you could.
I don't know that we have the capacity for every teacher to do that at this time, but it is something that we will be working toward.
And that's, thank you again for your work on this.
Thank you,
This
Ms.
is-
Hill.
And do we have the ability, I mean, do we have some sort of a, I guess, Google Classroom where you would store those types of of videos and they would be, okay, and be available to to the public generally, or do the children have passwords and?
Yeah, the children have passwords, or they would sign into their account to access it, which is to me, a good safety mechanism, just in case, you know, you catch the back of someone's head or something. It just provides an extra layer of security.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, to further that, some of the other concerns you've had, like I said, we've been meeting with Ms. Albritton. Most of our classrooms, especially in the elementary and middle school, 2 classes share a common bathroom, so we're not having them going all out in the hall. We're looking at a lot of safety measures. It's gonna require a bit more manpower, but we are exploring this. But you said you wanted to set a date for a workshop.
I mean, I think as a board, we need to, not that it's, we just need to be made
You
aware.
need to be aware of it to
When people
help us.
call us about
yeah.
it, and so we know what we're talking about. Anytime that you feel that whatever's best for you all, I mean, you're the ones who would be,
Okay, I was discussing this. Can we do this 3 one day and 2 the other night? Okay, we have July.
Let's see, we're going to meet on the 20th.
We're meeting on the 20th. We can have some on July the 21st.
I mean, that's fine with me.
Is that, you want to do them all 5 schools at one night, or do 3 one night and 2 another night?
Whatever pleases everyone else.
That's a Tuesday and a Wednesday, or you want all 5 of them one night?
What was going to happen on the 28th? Is that a trim meeting, or is that, I've got a meeting there at 6 o'clock.
July 28th is a trim meeting.
Those usually aren't very long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm thinking that wouldn't
That's
be.
15 minutes.
That wouldn't
Okay.
be, yeah.
July 28th. Now, school, okay, that's enough time. July
Yeah,
28th.
that would give them plenty of time.
Okay, so we need a meeting, a workshop with schools to present their return to school plan.
Okay.
Is the 28th. Ms. Bishop, do you have that?
Yes, I did. That's good.
Okay, like I say, it's 5 schools, and they get to talk, and it's gonna look at about 20 minutes each.
I think we push it up to 5.
The meeting at 5? That
Yeah,
would be good for me.
start at 5.
Start at 5 o'clock, Ms. Bishop.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but you got to remember to take a break at 6, do your trim meeting,
Okay, that'll be a good break.
and then come back.
Okay,
Okay.
Because that's got to be at 6.
That's got
okay,
to be at 6.
that sounds good. So
5.
July 28th at 5 PM, we'll have all the schools presenting. Ms. Albritton, any other comments about what we're doing? But we're constantly consulting with her.
But just know that we did deliver these masks for every student as well in the district. And there's, in one pack, it's got 5 masks, and it's good for 15 washes. And the only thing I would say is just, ensure that we send home and do educational sessions with the students in the classroom, how to properly wear the mask, and send something home to where that's pictorial to use for the parents' education as well.
Okay.
One of the things I also have been talking with our schools about, Open house as we know it does not exist anymore, not for this year. And I did not ban open houses. I say, what you do, you're gonna have to be creative and less than 50 people. So I don't know whether someone's gonna come up with something, but the standard open house, we won't be having that anymore. Not this year.
Have a virtual.
I mean, if that's why I say do something creative. So,
I mean, I have to say, that's pretty creative.
yep,
To be able to have the teacher, you could just do a mini, welcome to the classroom virtually, 360 something and.
Absolutely.
you know.
Show them everything, show them where the kids are gonna be, this is where we can do this.
I think my kids, to be able to see what room they were gonna be and how to find it would have reduced a lot of anxiety, especially in the 6th and 9th grade.
Right, yeah.
and I got a feeling some of the schools are going to do that.
All right. So we have a workshop in stone for the 28th, 5 o'clock, in regards to each individual school and their plans for returning. So there's no further action for 5.3 until further notice. 5.4, though, Ms. Hill alluded to the virtual school contracts. I'm not sure if she's,
You have 3 contracts,
Okay,
and
Ms.
she
Joseph.
alluded to them. The first one, I can't explain this. All 3 of them was for blended learning and for a lab, and then our just generic contract to become a franchise. And she's explained to you how we would be using these.
okay. All right. Do we have a motion to approve the contracts?
I move to approve the contract, the virtual school contracts.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Motion by Mr. Alford, seconded by Ms. Williamson. Would there be need for discussion? All in favor, Ms. Gibson,
Approve.
Mr. Alford,
Approve.
Ms. Williamson,
Approve.
Ms. Bell.
Approved.
I also approve 5-0. Virtual school contracts have been approved and adopted. 5.5, staffing table. Dr. Blue.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Brother Chair and Board, I would like for the Board to approve item 5.5, staffing table, which would be funded by the CARES Fund Act.
I don't think they got it loaded.
They don't have it?
Well, it's written out in the,
It's in here.
Oh, it
If you
is.
click on there, it's there.
it's not a
Okay.
separate document, but it's written.
It's written out. yeah.
Okay.
It's written out.
I didn't
It's
print
got-
it out, I'm sorry.
And so those are the positions you want to add.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I know what they are.
Do we have a motion to approve the staffing table?
I move to approve the new positions being paid for through the CARES Act.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Would there be a need for discussion?
Yes, I just wanted to say something. I've discussed this with Mrs. Joseph because it involves new positions. And of course, I always keep my eye on the staffing allocation. And it's determined by the number of students and I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Yes, ma'am.
And so since this is covered with CARES, the money that we receive from the state, I feel for this year, but this is not a permanent, these are not permanent positions.
No, ma'am.
They're, at the end of the year, the money, we won't be getting millions of dollars every year.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is, I will say, I had been concerned about this because we've been warned about adding new positions.
Yes, ma'am.
But then again, after talking to Mrs. Joseph, I feel better about it and I don't have a problem with it right now. But my eye is always on the staffing allocation plan.
Yes, ma'am.
May I discuss something?
Yes, ma'am.
These will be funded out of the CARES Act, and I think I've given you how much monies we will be receiving. And one of the things that Ms. Albritton was talking about and Ms. Hill was talking about, we're going to be having to take extra care in the cafeteria, and so the high school and the central school needed another worker. And when we get it, we will explain to them that this, when we hire them, okay, this is pending funding from the CARES Act. If we don't get the funding, you don't get the position. Also, number 5, we are going to have to put an isolation room at each school. Okay, you cannot put students in a room without someone monitoring. And we're going to put a paraprofessional in those rooms to monitor those kids. If a kid goes to the office or comes to the office or something with symptoms, and then we're not medical professionals, not know what it is, what they are, they will possibly in a holding room, an isolation room until the parents pick them up. That person will be doing double duty. If no one's in that room, it's a paraprofessional, the principal will schedule that person to go in a classroom. Okay, so that's the purpose of hiring 5 paraprofessionals. And also, with the increase in the number of staff, a number of students that's going to be distance learning, because we've got to enroll them, they've got to monitor the classes that students are taking, send progress reports home, and all the gamut. We're going to need, and the CARES Act, in the documentation, it recommends hiring someone to do that. And so that's what that's about. And the custodian, and this again, at Greenville, that's pending the enrollment. If not that many kids go to virtual school, we can keep it as it is. But if we have a lot of kids go that remain at the school, we're going to have to space the kids a little bit more. We may have to open the second wing. And so that's what that's about.
But as long as we know that this is for this year.
Yes.
Unless this
As long
virus
as-
continues, because we're not going to be getting the money next year.
That's we're
So
very,
we have to make that perfectly clear.
Yes,
we're
ma'am.
very
know.
cognizant. We'll let the people know that when we hire them.
Right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, will there be a need for further discussion? All right, all in favor? Ms. Gibson,
Approve.
Mr. Alford,
Approve.
Ms. Williamson,
Approve.
Ms. Bell,
Approve.
and also approve 5-0. The revision to the staffing table has been approved.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. 5.6, personnel changes.
Yes, I ask Brother Chair and the board to approve item 5.6, personnel changes.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve the personnel changes?
I'll make the motion to approve the personnel changes.
Okay.
Second.
All right, motion and second. There need for a discussion? All in favor, Ms. Gibson,
Approve.
Mr. Alford,
Approve.
Ms. Williamson,
Approve.
Ms. Bell,
Approve.
and also approve, for the record, 5-0, personnel changes have been approved.
Thank you, board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 6.1, superintendent items.
Okay, for my items for today, I've got several items. My first thing, last month I reported to you that we were going to be doing the Meals to You, where this program delivers meals, prepackaged meals to parents through the month of June. We were fortunate enough to have this program extended through August 15th, so the families that signed up, it was over 500 signed up, they will be getting boxes delivered to them every 2 weeks through August 15th. And so that's a goodie. We just finished talking about the CARES Act, so I need to tell you how much that was. The gear total amount was $94,512. Our district retained $80,124.55. Okay, we have to share this using our unweighted FTE with our charter schools and our private schools. And our CARES Act, Madison County was allotted $1,023,714.01. And the district is retaining $867,000 $875.29. This is going to be used in partial to pay for some of those new positions we just discussed. Another thing that you have at your desk, we've getting a lot of people coming down with things, and so we put out a illness protocol during pandemic. And this was shared with all the people on our email list, what to do in case you become ill. First thing, do not come to school. Okay, and then they will fill out the leave form, and then they need to visit a physician or the health department, and it outlines what to do there. The health department has been very diligent in working with us. If they see a person and they want to, all they've got to ask for is a note. And this plays right into the Families First the Response Act. The new family FMLA leave has been expanded. And so bottom line, if they have any coronavirus-related symptoms, or they get 2 weeks paid sick leave. And it goes on down, it can go up to 12 leave. Family, FMLA was previously unpaid, but if it's related to the virus, they get paid, some paid leave. Another thing that's giving me heartburn right now, not what it is, but how to distribute it. The governor signed in that teacher enhancement program. We talked with Leonard Deisman, who is our board negotiator for our union negotiator. Madison County was allotted $380,218. And again, that amount has to be shared with the charter schools. $380,218. And that was possibly to bring beginning teacher salary up to $47,500 or as close as possible. That's the part that we don't hear, or as close as possible as far as this money will go. I don't think we'll reach that far, but we will distribute all of this. Another kudos to Mr. Isaac Goyat. We've got a new sign-in system. We're paying Skyward, we own Skyward, we're electronically, so our sign-in system is now through Skyward, True Time. And so you can actually sign in on your smartphone in the parking lot. You can't sign in at home. You have to be on our network to sign in. And so that helps us a lot. We can, Ms. Hill and her team, we've got our new student enrollment systems up and running, and that's again through Skyward. We're becoming into the electronic age, and that's where we are.
So with the sign-in, that'll be official this school year,
July 1.
July 1? Do we need to have policy do we have policy concerning sign-in? Do we need that, Mr.?
I'm gonna confess, I don't know what in the world you're talking about.
The time clocks.
Oh, you're talking about for employees?
Time
I'm
clock.
sorry, okay,
Time clock.
I did
But
not
they've been
understand
signing
what
in
you're
on paper. We didn't have a policy for them to sign in on paper,
But
did
if
we?
we have individuals who refuse to sign in with Skyward, do we have?
Explain a little bit more though. No employee will be allowed to use paper, they will have to use their cell phone, is that accurate?
They don't have to use their cell phone. They can use a computer at their desk. We have kiosks around there.
Oh, okay.
They don't have to use their cell phone.
Okay, but if they want to, there's an app that can be downloaded
Yes.
to the cell phone, and then they can, and download it for free, and then they can use that to sign in?
Yeah, or kiosk or their computer.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they have,
Digital signage.
as long as they can do it at their computer, I don't see a problem. I think you can mandate that if that's what y'all want to do.
But what the point I'm trying to make is, if you have employees who say, I'm not going to sign in, do we have anything in writing that says if you do not sign in, you do not get paid?
Maybe they wouldn't get paid if they don't sign it.
But do we need something in writing for that?
They need to understand that's the policy before we start the year. So if that hasn't been made plain in the past, then we need to make it plain in writing. Has that been made, I mean, have they been, they've been using the
They've been
paper?
signing in on paper. We just sure enough make sure it happens. it's crazy for people to have to pay payroll because the people haven't been.
I hear what you're saying, and I'm glad
Okay.
we're doing that because then that forces people to be honest.
Well,
Not saying that people haven't been honest, but I'm just saying that we need to have something written and plan a policy that says if you refuse to sign in, then there's consequences of that.
well, and if I may, I think the way I would phrase it is we need to send them something that says we're going to this electronic system, and we need to say that their payroll is going to be based upon that.
Okay.
So if they don't show up, then, that's what we're using to calculate payroll, so that everybody understands
It's
that.
very streamlined for the payroll to.
Yeah, and then that way, for instance, if they're supposed to be working 8 hours, even if they're on salary, they're supposed to be working 8 hours and they're only signed in for 7, well, now that's an hour of leave that they've lost, because they had, theoretically, they had to take that leave, right? So you just say that their payroll and personnel is gonna be based on that.
So to go back to him, does that need to be a statement or policy?
I think that's a good question. I don't think
Because I don't know whether.
I don't think it needs to be a formal policy. I think just, Madam Superintendent, I think you can just do that if that's
Statement.
Okay.
just, but it does need to be in writing, and it needs to
Okay.
be sent out well ahead of people returning back to school.
Okay.
And that applies to teachers, custodians, principals, everybody, right?
Even bus drivers,
Even bus drivers. All right, good,
everybody.
good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Attorney Reeves.
I don't have anything other than you recall we were sued by Rite of Passage. That lawsuit is presently pending. I had prepared a motion to dismiss on some grounds so that I felt their complaint was deficient, and that's currently pending. I hope we're working now, putting together our numbers and all of that, and hopefully, once we get a little more clarity, maybe we can approach them, see if there's a middle ground and we can avoid having to take the case to trial. But right now, we are defending the case, and we have made an appearance and all of that, and we'll keep pushing forward. And that's all I have, unless you have other questions for me.
Okay. All right. All right, Ms. Gibson.
All right, I just want to say that I always appreciate all of our employees, but I especially want to thank Mrs. Hill and Mrs. Joseph for what you've been doing. I know you've put a lot of hours into this plan, and I appreciate it and admire you and respect you, and I can't say enough about you all. Mr. Kim, I want to thank you for all that you do for the school system. We appreciate you coming here and explaining and all the work that you put into it. Mr. Blue, thank you for what you do. We appreciate you too. And everyone else is connected. So I can't name everybody, but in other words, we appreciate what you do. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Alford.
I too want to thank Ms. Joseph and her staff, Ms. Hill, for these plans of us starting back. Again, Ms. Albritton from the Health Department, all her collaboration with the district, all the principals for all their hard work in starting this back, and hopefully we can get off to a good start and we can be as safe as possible. 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to go to the Autism Institute through Florida State, or not go there, I attended it through virtual. And the point I'm wanting to make is, through that, I learned of Baby Navigator, and Miss Albritton's gone, but for any baby that's born anywhere, they can sign up for this, and the parents chronologically, through developmentally milestones, they would input the data, and the Baby Navigator through FSU, it's through the Autism Institute, through the School of Medicine, charts the baby's development. And they were trying to encourage as many people to do it as possible, where they can monitor children who are either red flags for autism or who are developmentally delayed, can receive services as early as possible. As of now, with all the technology we have and all the research that's been done, it's usually around 4 or 5 before a student's diagnosed with autism. And the lady who invented this, Amy Weatherby, she's world-renowned in autism, and I had the opportunity to study under her at FSU for my graduate work when I was there. And she is like a world-renowned pioneer in autism and language development. So any children that you any newborn babies that you would come in contact is from birth till 2. It's a great way for for the parents to be on track. Constantly parents are asking, should they be saying this at this age? Should they do this at this age? And that would be, tell them exactly what they should be doing and send out red flags if there is a problem.
And it's free.
What now?
And it's free?
It's free. It's free. They have a YouTube site showing you how to interact with your child to facilitate language and learning, cognition. They have an autism navigator for parents of autistic kids, but Baby Navigator is just for your typical typical baby. And lastly, I'd just like to encourage everyone to practice good hygiene, social distancing, and if you can't social distance, to wear a face covering so we can start school and stay in school and try to get back to as normal as we can, because whether people realize it or not, our government and what businesses are operating affects the schools. It affects the schools with sales tax. It affects us, and I'm afraid of what's coming for us financially with these shutdowns happening. And if we can wear masks and social distance, and that helps our county get back on track and the state get back on track where we can open more normally, then it's going to help everyone in the long run financially. And that's all. And if anyone has any questions about the Baby Navigator, I'll be glad to explain to them. Just trying to help children get off on the right start in school where they're not behind.
Okay, Ms. Williamson.
Yes, I just have a couple questions. Ms. Joseph, on the illness protocol, does that apply to all of our employees?
Yes, the,
For the,
attendance.
if they have to be quarantined to be paid and stuff?
Yes, that applies to all of our employees.
What if we have to suspend any extracurricular activities? Does that apply to people getting supplements?
That's a deep question, Ms. Williams.
It's deep.
That's kind of deep because,
We have to think that through, I think.
the supplement people, that doesn't, wait. This applies to people coming to work. And we really have not approved any supplements for this school year.
I think traditionally we've treated the supplements as basically contract employees. And so traditionally they haven't gotten any kind of sick leave or anything, if they couldn't show up for football.
They don't get sick leave.
Yeah, they don't get any of that. So I wouldn't think you would, but I don't know. We hadn't really thought that through in that context. Certainly, if you just canceled an extracurricular, then they wouldn't get paid that supplement, right? I mean, like if you had a certain extracurricular, they'd normally get a supplement, and we just cancel it, they're not gonna get their supplement. But yeah, if they get sick halfway through, do they still get their supplement? That's a great question. I don't know the answer.
But what we did last year, for example, we shut down school and basketball season was half over, but because they had started, and that's one of those situations where we chose our battle, we still gave them the full supplement. Now, you're saying, do we give them a full supplement? Because when we give it to them, we didn't say if you complete so many games or whatever. We say for this season, this is your supplement. If it gets started, we've been.
I would think if you start, you would be obligated.
Okay, now my question is, when is the start date?
Well, can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
The question here, I think, is going to turn on under the CARES Act, is requiring that you give leave and different things. I think the first question is, and it's probably a Leonard Dietzen question, is does that CARES Act apply to those supplements? So that's the first thing to ask. I doubt it does, but that's his bailiwick to see if that applies to those supplements. If it doesn't apply to the supplements, then we're under the same rules we were always under with supplements, and we just look at it from that perspective. But I think the first thing is, let's see if that CARES Act has anything to do with the supplements.
Okay. But the supplement, if a person is out for 2 weeks, they still, if the season has begun, they still get that full supplement because you don't pay them per day.
Right.
and then they do not accrue any sick leave because of this.
How do we pay out the supplements? Is it added to paychecks, or what do we do? So
Is-
you divide it up over the season and add it to supplements?
That's
Add it to
for
paycheck?
people that's employed with us. For the people that's not employed, at the end of the season, we cut them a check.
Have we ever had that where somebody agreed to a supplement and then quit halfway through, or? I mean, I'm sure that has to have happened at some
This
point.
past year, we had someone, we did, the part of the supplement that had not received, we gave it to someone else because that person left, so,
That's an interesting
we
question.
just left it in there.
Yeah.
I guess we need to,
That-
explore that deeper before we approve any supplements.
Yeah.
I'll get back with you next week on some of that.
And just, I guess, like the closer you get with the Florida High School Athletics saying if they're going to have fall sports, have they made a,
They sent out an announcement yesterday or today, says that we can start football practice on July 27th, official practice.
but
With
not,
the approval of your county.
Local health department.
No, the school. I've had to close down, suspend extracurricular practice until July 13th because of, we've had activity at the school
I got you.
on the teams, and so they didn't need to be practicing.
Sounds good.
All right, Ms. Williamson, you had a second question for Ms.?
No, I don't.
Okay,
That
okay.
was big enough.
All right. Ms. Bell?
No, sir, I don't have any questions.
Okay. All right. Now, I would also like to thank everybody who is coming together to make this return to school possible. As you look at the news, you notice that we're in an unprecedented situation where the problems we are trying to solve, people all across the country they're having the same issues everywhere. And so I think, I just applaud everybody who's trying to make it happen. We're on uncharted waters. And I think everybody's doing a wonderful job of pulling together. And even hearing that we've been getting some feedback from the community as well is important, I think. So with that said, I commend everybody for a job well done. And that's all I have. And on that note, do we have a motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn?
Second,
All right, all in favor? Ms. Gibson?
approve.
Mr. Alford?
Approve.
Ms. Williamson?
Approve.
Ms. Bell?
Approved.
And I approve 5-0. Y'all be safe.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.